Okay, I'm recording this on the 25th of January of 2026, and Neptune is about to go into Aries as of tomorrow. So this is a good time we can talk a little bit about what Neptune means, what it is, and what things may well look like over the next 12, 13 years. So beginning with Neptune, this is a chthonic god. This is a god of the ocean. This archetypal territory is by nature feminine. It is dark, and it has everything to do with emotion. It has everything to do with the period of human development when we're still in the womb. In which we are taking in all of the information, all of the emotional input, all of the nutritional input, the whole psyche of our mother. And we have no other context to compare that to. We are harmonized to our mother. We are at one with our mother. So Neptune is a very semiotic archetype. It's got everything to do with the ways in which we can be manipulated through atavistic imagery, through symbols, through emotions, through things that are so deep inside of us and have everything to do with our racial memory. And we generally, like the frog in boiling water, we can't see this stuff. We are generally unaware of it except through our nervous system, and through dreams, and through often through, as this is a chthonic god, it has everything to do with fertility, so it has a lot to do with sex. It has a lot to do with the root of our sex as males and as females. And as I said, it's a very feminine, when we're talking about hermetically speaking, this is a feminine place. Emotion, animal nature, and as I said, this is before we're even really anything but like a tadpole. We haven't really become human, so to speak, but we always have been human at the same time. This is, a very liminal space that Neptune really represents. So, because it's this type of a archetype, this has a lot to do with the zeitgeist, the collective unconscious, the power of imagery around us. This brings us to movies and to advertising, and to propaganda and other tools that are intended to act upon our psychological makeup in ways that we're not supposed to know about, and we're just simply supposed to allow these things to wash over us like, as I said, like fish in the water. We can't see them until we've trained ourselves to see them. Neptune makes things very difficult to see. It makes structures seem as if they're kind of meaningless. Poseidon was known as the earth shaker. So some people say the early Poseidon had basically a lot of the same significations as Pluto or Hades, underworld significations. People have been using waterways and the ocean to honor the dead and to send them off on their way for probably as long as there have been humans. So there is a very strong association to death as well through this. So there's a very strong association to the stars as well, because the stars have been largely what people use to navigate when they're going out on the ocean. Again, it's probably as long as people have been going on the ocean. We can also think of Odysseus, going off and encountering the sirens, and tying himself to his boat while his entire crew goes insane, enthralled by this feminine sexual energy, and just simply feminine power. The power of the mother is invoked here, and this is a male chthonic archetype. And anybody who's read my Substack, you'll find I've got some articles about the chthonic male god as a proxy to the great goddess, and the male subservience to the great goddess. And this is very much Neptune's territory. So to understand what's happened and what's going to happen, we've been, for quite a while, Neptune has been sitting in the last degrees of Pisces. And if we go back to 1860, at the beginning of the American Civil War, Neptune was sitting in the late degrees of Pisces when the war began. Neptune is not often associated to war, but he should be. This area of human archetypal consciousness is it sits below Mars as well. So all of the other archetypes are kind of influenced by this. And if you think of like the angry drunk, we don't all just become like heroin addicts, so to speak. We don't all just get zoned out and turn into zombies by this energy. It goes both ways. It can it can be translated into extraordinary violence. We can think about the Maenads, the followers of Dionysus, the women who would tear small animals to pieces, or humans to pieces, or bulls. They would the Taurobolium. Unpleasant, but this is an aspect of human psychology and who and what we are. So we've had Neptune in the late degrees of Pisces, and we've been teetering on the edge of something very much like I won't say civil war, but extraordinary polarization, and we're getting what feels closer to something very much like that. We need to understand, too, that Neptune has, unlike the period in 1860, Neptune has been in close contact with Saturn for the past couple years. And Saturn represents the roots, the established power, the seat of power. Saturn is all about the protecting established power. And if you know Saturn mythology, he also is a proxy of the great goddess. But it's and he's also, his primary cosmogonic myth is castrating. He's a proxy to Gaia, essentially. He castrates Uranus in the interest of his mother, Gaia. So he's got a kind of this cryptic sun lover kind of archetypal significance too. But he's not the same as Neptune. Not quite as raw, and again serving the goddess, but in a more, as I said, in the roots. Like if we're talking about the tree of life, this is the root. It's a very sensitive and extremely important part of the tree. It's taking all the nutrients in. It requires a fairly delicate balance, and if there's too much water, which Neptune brings, then that can rot out the root. So between Neptune and Saturn, we have corruption. We have corruption of the most basic legal frameworks of humanity. And in Pisces, it's been kind of submerged. But this particular point where we're going to see Saturn and Neptune converging together in the first degree of Aries, which is literally on the point of the zodiac, which is the vernal equinox. It's a liminal point. It's an extremely important point. Changing of the season. This goes back to the dying and rising god idea. Each season has its own king. I guess if you look at the tarot cards, it's got its own royalty, and that king dies with the season, and a new king must be born. So this is the Saturn-Neptune cycle is kind of reaching its crescendo, and a king must die here, and a new king must be born. Now, that doesn't mean that we have leaders that are going to die or anything like that necessarily. This is probably going to be a paradigmatic thing, a shift of seasons, essentially. And we also need to understand that the last, when the American Civil War happened, we were in a astrological age of Earth. And we were right around the time there was a convergence of Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of the Virgin in Virgo. This time we are solidly in the age of air. We had the convergence in the first degree of Aquarius in 2020, I believe it was. So this is a different era. This is the last time we saw Neptune emerging from Pisces into Aries was it was Earth. So this was a very grounded era overall. We had stable nations. Things were moving towards consolidation overall. That is not the case now. We're moving out of that into decentralization and polarization in a lot of ways. So, as I said, this is a radically different overall era. So, Neptune in Aries, as I said, this is going to be accompanied by Saturn. Saturn does not want to be in Aries. Saturn is the lord of the winter. He is the force that brought his wife, the great goddess Rhea, to hide Zeus underground in a cave because Saturn was going to eat his child, just as he had done with the other 5 children. But Rhea stuck baby Zeus underground with the nymphs, and he survived and then deposed Saturn. So Saturn is a child eater, and Aries is all about birth. So Saturn has an extremely repressive effect upon Earth, on youth especially, and the Aries is very much about youth. It's about the shoots of the tree coming up from the ground. It's Mars in general is a fertility god. He rules Aries. So this is an archetype. Saturn entering Aries is going to be repressive and suppressive and trying to prevent violence. The last time, actually the 2 Saturn cycles ago, we had Saturn entering Aries in 1968, when we had enormous protest movements. And that was Saturn not accompanied by Neptune at that point. Neptune was in Scorpio, another Mars-related ruled sign, but not in conjunction. So this time the potential for violence is actually moderated by Saturn. Saturn has a subversive effect to Aries. He doesn't want to see any violence. He wants everybody, nobody gets hurt. He's going to run around trying to stop all of these, stop violence. But it's, of course, it's in many ways hypocritical because Saturn himself is, trying to eat the children. But Saturn doesn't operate through overt violence necessarily. That's not really the Saturnian mechanism. Saturn works through old age, through diminishment, through heaviness, age. So this is not. This is just an extremely difficult place for Saturn to be. So this is a moderating factor. While Neptune does have potential to cause violence, Saturn tends to not do that. We will eventually see Mars coming through, and that Aries and conjoining with these planets one by one in Aries, and that's should be an interesting thing. I'll probably comment on that as that approaches. But so as Neptune is entering Aries, we're already seeing a lot of the things that we would expect, which is, as I said, we got corruption, extraordinary corruption, which has happened during this Neptune and Pisces era. Delusion, very basic ideas of what it means to be a human being have become deeply corroded away, and ideas and fantasies and ideologies have come to dominate a lot of the population. And Neptune's arrival in Aries really is not going to permit that to go on as much. It's still potentially a dream world, but it's a dream world in which the sun is literally exalted, in which the martial rules, the bravado, the bluster, the fighting words, the fighting ideas, the symbols of war, the symbols of conflict, and that actually can include, in many ways, more biting humor, more making fun of things, more of the jarring, jabbing kind of attacks, and people simply needing to either go run and hide underneath a rock, or deal with the fact that people are going to not respect the sacred cows the way they may have done while in Neptune was in Pisces. You had a lot more religiosity in when Neptune was in Pisces. This when I say religiosity, I mean the sacred cow, the martyr. That martyr becomes more of a literal martyr here than just simply someone who's has the wrong pronouns or something, and is mortally wounded by disinformation or something, ideas that they don't like. That's going to fall by the wayside here, because those are we're talking about rougher seas for those who are who don't have their sea legs, so to speak. So this is what we're going to be seeing with Neptune in Aries. The steed that we had previously was a seahorse with Neptune in Poseidon, because the horse is actually a major symbol of Poseidon. And in Aries, we've got a war horse. We've got the fully armored horse prepared to possibly draw and quarter people if we've got consequence coming in Aries. So that can go in whatever direction it goes in, but it's the general zeitgeist, collective consciousness moves to embrace conflict. So hopefully this will help people as we move forward. You can check out my work on Substack. That's Diamond, Daimon Seed Astrologer.